Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the India Food Nutrition Summit 2021. So that was a wonderful presentation by Mr. Viren Dhulla on food and beverage turning issues into opportunities. Now we move on to our next panel session, which is the last panel session of this day, on an exclusive topic on next generation F&B industry, resilient, efficient, and sustainable. Some of the key pointers that would be discussed in this session will be on building sustainable and efficient plants, automation achieving greater efficiencies in food production, modernizing the plant to smart factories, and many more. And to discuss on this particular topic, I would like to introduce in the order of sequence Mr. Shirish Yadav, VP Technology and Manufacturing from ITC. Joining Mr. Yadav, we have Mr. Ganesh Kulkarni, Head Technical Cargill India. Next, we have Mr. Kaustubh Joshi, Director Consumer Packaged Goods Segment from Schneider Electric. Lastly, I would like to introduce Dr. Vilas Shirhati, Director Technical from Natural India. Dr. Shirhati, since you being the panel moderator, I request you to take the session ahead.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
Hello. Okay. First of all, myself and on my behalf and the panel, I would like to thank organizers INEX for inviting us to be on this panel. And this panel is focusing on the next generation of food and beverage industry, which has to become resilient, efficient, and sustainable. Now, despite of all the advancements we have made in technology, the basic human needs of hunger and malnutrition, where you are not getting sufficient nutrition. Hunger is about not getting sufficient food, and malnutrition is not about getting sufficient nutrition, are the biggest challenges which we are facing. And COVID-19 has again brought up this issue that preventive health is going to be far more important than cure. And maybe in all the instances, we may not have cure, which is what has happened in this pandemic. So to make sure that food and nutrition becomes available, the basic need of all human beings are met, one of the things we have to do is to produce food in a most efficient way, and most importantly, in a very sustainable way. Now, today we are able to produce enough food to meet the demands of the population. Nevertheless, when in a few years, when we move to 10 billion population, this itself is going to be a problem. Now, the food, energy, and water, these are very closely interlinked, and these are referred to as the nexus of sustainable development as referred by the UNO. Now, the demand for all these three is going to increase as the population increases. I think, can others be on the mute, because there is a lot of disturbance that is coming in the background. Now, Earth as a resource and what we have on Earth is not going to expand, whether it's the land for agriculture or the water. So what we have is that we have to start using extremely efficiently and in a very sustainable way. As we see population increases, the percentage of older population is going to increase. So the labor force nature is also going to completely change. I remember an example when I used to work in Colgate-Palmolive in the USA. We had a plant which was manufacturing deodorant sticks for the entire world. And it had 8 components and it had multiple things. And the entire plant, which was producing almost 70% of the deodorant sticks for the whole world, was managed by only 2 people. And there were almost several robots which were continuously working to put the whole together. And in the plant, there is only 1 person inside and there is 1 person monitoring it outside. And that's the kind of mechanizations we'll be looking in the future. In life, everything is going to get influenced by 4 technologies, as they say. One is the information technology, then biotechnology, nanotechnology, and cognition technology. And now cognition technology, which is artificial intelligence and a lot of other things, are going to make a huge impact not only on manufacturing, agriculture, and every aspects of our life. Information technology and biotechnology, we have already seen the impact of that, and nanotechnology is also pitching in. Despite of all this, we are having almost 1/3 of the food that is produced is being wasted in the world today. And in the developing countries, it is in the form of raw material, that is the grains and fruits and vegetables. But unfortunately, in the developed countries, also 1/3 of the food produced is wasted. It is because it's on the dining table. Excessive serving, larger size quantities, and overeating, and all those things are leading to a lot of food being wasted. So we need to address all these issues to make our systems very efficient and sustainable as we get into the future. We are having now the fourth industrial revolution, which has started a few years back. And this was triggered by the high-tech innovations, which brought the cyber physical system together. That is, the smart machines capable of exchanging real-time information over the industrial Internet of Things for decision-making process. And Industry 4 is the ambit of various modern technologies like cloud computing, IoT, artificial intelligence, big data science, 3D printing, 5G coming in, and use of drones for all kind of monitoring, and several communication systems that are being put together. All these have to be collectively leveraged for the ability to enhance the productivity in the manufacturing process and make them sustainable at the same time. So when it comes to food, we cannot look at manufacturing of the food in isolation. It has to be from soil to fork, as we call it. Agriculture system also needs all the modernization and automation. Then the post-harvesting technologies, and then the food manufacturing itself, then the food packaging, the food transportation. How do we store the foods? And how do we, even at the last stage when consumers use this food, there is also a lot of automation required in terms of communication of the right use of the foods to the consumers. So there's a whole gamut of things that where we need to bring in automation and sustainability concept. But today's focus is largely going to be on the manufacturing processes. When you look at this kind of automations and transforming and moving to new systems and all, there are challenges. One is, how do you train the labor force? How do you heal the human resources issues? And the second one is small scale industries and these things where their ability to afford to make these kind of investments is going to be very limited. How are we going to take them along with the whole revolution of this manufacturing for? And at the same time, even for the larger industries where you have existing plants, existing investments made, how do you also transform them? Just to give an example, Vanaspati industry had made huge investments of hydrogenation plants. Now it is known that we don't want any trans fat. So hydrogenation is getting replaced by esterification, and eventually, we had to achieve the target of 0 trans fats in all the food products. Now, what happens to this entire Vanaspati industry, which depended on the hydrogenation of fats? So when you go for this kind of transitions, these kind of challenges will also be there, which need to be addressed along with the whole process and complexity of the automation itself. So let me now go to the panelists and pose certain issues and this thing, and would like to get their response. First, I will go to Mr. Shirish, who comes from a large FMCG food industry. I want him to dwell more upon building sustainable and efficient plants. Why it is so important to build a sustainable food supply chain, and importance of building sustainable, I think everybody understands. There is no need to elaborate that one. But the key question is how to build sustainable and efficient food plants. So Shirish, if you can give your thoughts on this.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vilas. Yeah, you rightly mentioned it is a vast topic actually. And you briefly touch base, our world population is growing, and there is an indication by 2050 it may be 9.5 or 10 billion, almost like a 40-45% rise from current population. which will needs to be fed actually, and for that we will have to scale current food production by almost by 70-80%, while more food will have to be produced from this less land, because land remains same, water and energy also will remain like a scarce commodities. So entire purpose is about how I can feed. So in fact, what is really sustainable food production or food supply chain or food system, food chain is, in a nutshell, it is nothing but like name it suggests like a sustainable. So it should go on forever without any constraints. So how we can do that actually, how we can progress to that is ideal condition, and then currently we know that there are many challenges and how we can reach there. So and very important, it is not only food just to eat. That food needs to be very very good in nutrient dense, as well as all of human beings, all of us, we want a good taste and other stuff. So it should be like a tasty, and it should be like a healthy and nutrient dense actually, which is very very important. uh, and then how we should produce actually, how, what is a sustainable food production? Basically it is a method how we can produce the food. I am just limiting currently to the manufacturing, but it can be from end to end, farm to fork. It is like how we can, it is a method or processes without creating major pollution or non-polluting, conserving a non-renewable energy. We can use renewable energy, but whatever non-renewable energies, how, and natural resources, how we can conserve for us as well as our coming future generations. Then it has to be economically efficient. It should be safe for the workers as well as communities and consumers. And it should comprise the like basically it should not compromise the needs of the future generations. That is very very important actually. Coming to the environmental, see, all of us know that to, like, there is a global food production method. There is a like must change to minimize the impact of environment and basically its impact on the environment. However, to date, at least, there is no very very specific principles to determine if one food product is more environmentally sustainable than other. Actually, it's still a very very hazy and gray area, but that needs to be sorted out. What actions can be taken to have a more food production which is a sustainable? Foremost is very very important is about the limit waste actually. What Dr. Vilas also briefly mentioned, a lot of food get wasted across world, and specifically in India. I think a lot of perishable foods are getting waste. Even non-perishable food grains and other stuff is getting wasted. So limit the wastage. How that can be done? It could be done by, I think, many ways, by like incentivizing sustainable and environment friendly food supply chains by the governments. Few thoughts around it. One is like all these natural resources needs to be used very efficiently. Okay, all these fossil fuels as well as land. And then the energy, water, and other things we have to use very very efficiently. We have to find the ways, crops and other things which are like consuming less of these commodities, but it is high in high in proteins, and how we can create those kind of like a food productions. Then protect quality of the natural resources. Again, this is very important. Like for the pesticide, insecticide, we just bombard on the fields, and then that pollute the soils and waterways and everything. So which is again very very important. There is a greenhouse gas emissions needs to be controlled. There is a soil erosion, and that plowing back into the organic matter, because topsoil is very very important. If that topsoil goes away, I think it will not be possible us to make any kind of crops on the fields. So how we can create that kind of organic matter going back into the on the soil actually? Then biodiversity needs to be kept in mind. Marine like resources, sustainable fishing practices, as well as pollution of the coastal areas. I think that is another big areas, from fertilizers, littering of the plastics and many other things. There could be like, and already I think these things are growing, like marine stewardship councils. Then there is a round table of sustainable palm oil, RSPO, basically procurement of the ingredients from sustainable sources. Many companies are like putting in their branding it, and then they're trying to create their brands that we are sourcing everything from the sustainable things. Environment friendly and efficient food packaging, again, that is very, very important. Plastic, and so how we can optimize the packaging material, how we can make the recyclable kind of materials are used for the packaging, then that materials used are lesser or zero the environmental impact. Then obviously this reduce the waste by extending the shelf life, and then packaging, functional packaging, as well as storage conditions. Some of the ideas, it is like, I think most of you might be aware about this 4R philosophy. It is a reduce, reuse, recycle, and repurpose. Instead of current, what is the philosophy is like a take, make, and dispose, which is not going to create, it is going to create a disaster for all of us. And at my company, I think we really thrive on these areas actually. So we it is like, if you see from the any manufacturing location perspective, how we can make energy efficiency more, use the efficiency of the, improve the efficiency of the energy, and balance the energy distribution by currently like topics about the a lot of talk around digitization, energy analytics. We are already doing on that. Water conservation, recycling, and treated waters, and all that. Renewable energy, I think there is a big potential about the thermal as well as solar, wind, and other stuff. I think can be created by renewable energy. Then waste reduction and management is very important. In fact, it will improve. If my yields are improved, I think my wastages will go down, and that is a win-win situation. Then conservation of the, basically I already spoke about this packaging material recycling kind of opportunity, or recyclable kind of. And then my entire end-to-end farm to fork supply chain, how I can make a green. Selection of technologies, again, there is a lot of technology now, low or zero carbon technologies are available, so how we can go for that. Then life cycle product stewardship, life in nutshell. What is important is that about the food production should meet the demand and nutritious and safe food requirement for this large population. And some of this, and I personally see, because of this COVID and all that, actually a lot of thrust is coming. These consumers are becoming more and more conscious about that. They are taking pride, and personal efforts are being put. All of you are aware about, there is a lot of thoughts and thinking is happening around rethinking about the plastic menace, and then bio-based, biodegradable packaging is already many companies are looking at. To close it, this lot of work is happening, but is it sufficient? Definitely no. I think with newer and newer technologies are coming, much more work is needed, much more investment is needed from the industry. A lot of support is required from government and government organizations, as well as governments in the R&D innovation, to meet the demands and the needs of the world's growing population in a sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirish. Taking us to a general overview of all the areas where we can bring up the efficiencies and all. So let me now get focused more onto the manufacturing process per se. And there is a lot of room for bringing efficiencies here. And I would request Ganesh to tell us more about what are the things that are being done today for achieving greater efficiencies in the food production. So the focus is now on the manufacturing process and where we produce the food.
Fine. So I'm audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Good. So I think when we talk about type of automation in the food industry, it's very, and it has been called out by both the speakers, something about industry 4.0, such as wanted to touch upon, because when we talk about automation, industry 4.0 is something which is very essential in this. So just to understand why this 4.0 has come up, or what was 1.0 before. So if you see the timeline chart, which is of I would say 18th of century, where mechanical weaving looms were there, those got further developed into the 20th century, where we had a first assembly line. It was where we see that a group of persons doing only certain type of job, and then it goes to the next level. So people are around the table, and that's the second revolution where we can do a more efficient work, or more efficient production can happen in this case. Later on, it went to a PLC based, or we can say programmable logical control system based. That's going to be a third revolution here, where it was controlled by some of the softwares, and some of the production processes were controlled. But now, because there is a lot of development which is happening around the, I would say, Internet of Things. Okay, so those Internet of Things, and now it is called as CPS, where connected devices is one of the thing which is called as Industry 4.0, where one and another devices are connected. So something like this, it will be showing up like all the devices, either it is robo, either it is a machine which is working around, which Dr. Vilas said that, and these are connected with the devices where you can give an input, you can take an output. So this is the fourth type of industrial revolution, which we can say. That's what it's called as Industry 4.0, which is with the connected devices. It is ease of doing the work, I think, along the way as of now, and then this would further develop to next way of doing the work. And why we should go to Industry 4.0, or why should we go for more automation here? So automation, as we have seen that automation is very, very important when we wanted to do something which is, I would say, more efficient. Lot of wastage, food wastage is happening. So all of these wastages with monitoring system can be reduced in this case. So as the technology is developing, so there will be a new industry which would be coming up. We have seen that previously using a normal phone, which is more of a button phone to a smartphone. So there is a lot of changes has happened just bringing that smartphone in, and a lot of things can be controlled. Today with simple smartphone or a smart tab, we can control a lot of the processes. Previously, people have to sit into the control room, or maybe whatever PLC room, and from there people have to control a lot of things. And they will. So if some of the manufacturing facilities are vast, they are a few 10 to 12 storied, or they are horizontally vast, and then people will not be able to. So we need to have a person there and person there. So now it is all enabled through a tab, which is a smart tab, and from that, lot many things can be controlled, where it will be a seamless production drive, which will be continued. So that's in general about automation and Industry 4.0 from my side. Thank you.
Chair on mute, Dr. Vilas.
Yeah. Ganesh and Shirish come from actual food industry where they are manufacturing a lot of food, and you heard their perspective. Now let me go to Kaustubh, who comes from industry where they are supplying a lot of automation equipments and all. So there are two aspects here that Kaustubh, I want you to elaborate. One is there is existing plant structures, infrastructure, very heavy investment has been made, and they also have to modernize. And there is this thing where new factories are coming up, where the blueprint itself is all about modernization and automation. So they have a different. So how do you address the challenges of these two aspects, and what is being done in both these areas?
Yeah, so thank you for rather asking this question, and I would say more than a question. I think it's a really a big deal that we need to deal with from the manufacturing standpoint. And I completely agree what Shirish said, startup, that it's a complete diversification of the food industry. We are not talking about the manufactured product which reaches to the consumer, but we are also talking about the overall upstream of this, coming from the agriculture and then going to the end customer and supplying it. What is the food safety norms? And then you heard it from Ganesh talking about associated topics. Now, when we talk about the manufacturing efficiency per se, whether it is investing into an existing manufacturing facility or putting up a greenfield facility, in both the areas, there are three aspects which are crucially important from when we look at it from the OEM standpoint. Ganesh talked about the Industry 4.0, which is precisely applicable whether it is an existing manufacturing facility or a greenfield investment. And that's where Schneider's EcoStruxure solution comes and play a very important role, whether it is connected devices from where a lot of data mining happening, and that data needs to be converting into a meaningful information, which happens at the edge control. And then we take it beyond as the smart device, which you said is on the apps and analytics. So we work on these three layers precisely through EcoStruxure as a solution. But if you look at the problem statement within the manufacturing facilities, every end customer wants to sweat their own existing assets. They're not restricted towards pumping in a lot of money, putting up a new greenfield facilities. There are very few when it comes to that. And our solution, starting from the 132 kV switch yard or going to the minutest level of modular switches, we encompasses that solution in terms of our offering, not only offering the plethora of the products or solutions, but we are also looking at aspects going beyond from scalability, sustainability of these offer, ensuring that the food safety norms, not only from the end customer standpoint, but also from the central government and the norms which are associated with that, are sufficed within the products. That is from the efficiency standpoint. Now you look at it from the investment standpoint. When we start any journey with our customers, we don't look at it from the project perspective. All that we are trying to understand is that if a customer is building up a plant or doing an efficiency modernization in the factory, what matters is how that plant will be scalable, not only for 5 years or 10 years, but it becomes a scalable manufacturing facility for at least 25, 30 years. And all the work that we have done in this particular space in whichever product offer makes it very crucial. That is on the investment standpoint. Now you look at it, which is the last part, which I would say, which is these days has become very crucial. We all have seen in pandemic, people have become extremely curious, or also at the same time understanding where the food is manufactured, where it is coming from, what is that ingredients in it. I mean, it is not only beautifying the packaging equipment, but it is also looking at what are the content has gone beyond it. And that's where certain solutions of whether the product is labeled properly or not, what are those aspects which are associated with that or not, whether the product is properly serialized or not, which is, what is the expiry date of the products and so on. So all these aspects can be covered, not only looking at supplying certain systems and solutions, but also encompassing the uptrend of the market, also encompassing the Industry 4.0 revolution. And that can be only hosted by certain set of solutions where we work with our end consumers to develop a complete program, whether it is brownfield or greenfield. I think that makes a very, very crucial. So, my closing comment on this particular topic is it's we don't look at it, when it comes to from the other side of the table, when I have two largest customers from the country organization as well as globally, we understand what are their primary requirements are. We put the lenses accordingly to improvise their efficiency, ensuring that the systems are built in a scalable way. At the same time, it needs to be stayed sustainable for a longer period of time.
Yeah, Dr. Vilas, I just wanted to add what Kaustubh mentioned. See, this is very relevant. In fact, many of our MSME sector company, like food producing organizations, as well as some of the big organizations also, because the factories are there for last whatever years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And nobody is going to scrap those machineries and all that, actually. While there is very, very important how we can scale that, how we can make it more suited to the Industry 4 revolution. I think that is the biggest challenge. And I think many of the OEMs, like Kaustubh is also mentioned, I think OEMs are already working on that. And if you see currently some of those devices, like some of the IoT devices, some of the CCTV related solutions, some of the even I think blockchain and other related solutions, these are not very, very expensive. Yes, I think it has got paybacks. I think what I suggest specifically MSME or even small scale FPOs, I'll suggest that you should go for the a problem solving kind of approach. Take a small area, work around it. Suppose I am investing say 5 lakh rupees. You see that whether I am recovering that within 1-2 years time. That gives a confidence, and then one by one, I think you can go on building that actually. But if you are really talk about jargon and all that, then I think people get a little bit nervous actually because the investments will come in crores and all that. But if there is a right kind of approach is adopted, things should be possible to do it.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
those
I just
comments,
wanted to
Shirish.
add one more thing to Mr.
Yes,
Suresh.
Ganesh.
What he said is, I think rather than overall budget or the capex or the amount required, it's more important the mindset. Okay, so like what Mr. Suresh said, that take a one area. So if we take one area, I think there is enough understanding, enough intellectual capital available, so people can think, how can I make it, more I would say more automated. Okay, the things can be more automated where we will be able to save more. It could be a single sensor to be added, or some of the equipments to be arranged in certain way. So that also ease out many things. So it's not always a budget or something, but it's more of a mindset. I think if we do a cultural change and mindset that okay, we would like to look at it in this way, and if we are ready to change, I think the change will come in this case. Thank you.
Both of you are very right. And when people talk of automation and digitization, suddenly the whole big question is about investments and money. It's not. Yes, there is a budget requirement, but many of these tools are available today at a very reasonable cost, and even small scale industries can adopt. I'll give you a live example. When I was working as the chief technology officer for Marico, they are the largest consumers of copra for manufacturing the coconut oil. Now, farmers would load their truck, bring it to the factory. We look at the quality. If it is good, we accept it. If it is rejected, the farmer has to take the truck back all the way. There is a cost to that whole transport and this thing, and somebody has to bear that cost. A simple mobile application which will communicate to them what is the current market price and what is the price we are offering. If that is acceptable, then only they bring the truck. Now, yes, there was a problem. Many of these farmers were not familiar with English. So there were communication mobile apps developed in Tamil and Telugu in the local languages to each state. And they would communicate in their own language. They know what price they are getting. If it is acceptable, they will come. And the other thing in the supply chain was, instead of driving all the way to a central factory in Kerala, we set up satellite quality labs. So they will bring the quantity within 50 or 100 kilometers. We will check it. If it is acceptable, we'll take it, and a collected quantity will then be shifted to factory. That saves a lot of transport. These are very simple technology tools that we can use at a most cost-effective way. So let me come to Shirish back in terms of particularly supply chain efficiencies. Because it is not just the manufacturing. As I said, it has to be in every dimension of food supply. So in supply chain, can you elaborate, some of the new things that are happening in terms of making the supply chain more efficient?
Yeah. So thanks, Dr. Vilas. So I would like to. It is like we are talking about supply chain in food is what farm to fork actually is. It covers the farmers. Then in between there could be like agents, then processors, basically manufacturing. Then there is a traders in between. Then there is a logistics and distributors and retailers, and then finally it is the consumers. So how it can start actually? So basically, like, there is a cold chains. Okay, see, there is a lot of perishable like food products are there, like fruits, or even for that matter, many other perishable products, especially seasonal perishable products. How it can be like preserved actually? There is a lot of technologies are available, new startups are coming with many new ideas and all that actually. So basically, cold chain, how it can be monitored, IoT based sensors and all that, temperature recording, cloud platform. Now there this SaaS, which is a software as a services on cloud and digital apps. Many these new startups are coming. You can operate through, you don't have to invest heavily on you can operate through your mobiles. Basically, you need a smartphones and some like IoT devices and some of the things at those specific locations. Then agri crop monitoring systems, basically at farmers, no, so growth here, basically it is there like drones and all that. It is not very expensive technologies. One drone can be sufficient many acres of the lands actually, and it can be used. Similarly, cameras has a lot of intelligence nowadays. Actually, it can be very easily used for this. Then there are like quality management at the manufacturing systems, or even storages. We have seen that a lot of materials, these agri products gets wasted. So there is a silo based things actually. Yes, it needs initially investment, but there is a definitely a good payback, and there is a lot of reduction into the wastage or zero wastages actually. Then in the manufacturing areas, I think there are many things we already discussed, so I don't want to go into that. But in the front end, then again there is a like in supply chain, end to end, QR codes, traceability. I will also wanted to cover. I think there was one some of the questions around traceability. I will try to also talk around it. And then all this about the allergen, recall, complaints, consumer interface, QR codes, and all that. I think in all those areas, so end to end supply chain areas, these technologies can be adopted actually. So many areas actually, all this can be very easily adopted nowadays, and entire end to end operations can become a very integrated operation. Also, new concepts are coming. I think you were just touch base about the distributed quality labs, but now there is a distributed manufacturing. New concept is coming actually. Why I have to make at one place, and then because we are talking about food and it needs to be fresh actually. Best is what you prepare and next moment you are available. It is not possible. That is the ideal stage, and again. But you could have factories, distributed factories. It is managed through the central things and all that. I think those ideas today we are seeing, how it is possible. It is like 20, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Are we imagine that we will be talking like this, or on the WhatsApp messages and call like it is? हमने महाभारत में पढ़ा था कि Sanjay was able to see the war. So something similar chronologically. I am not saying that technology was there or not. I don't know exactly. But today, through the mobile, I am able to see the person in real time actually. So that is what these technologies are also coming very heavily. They are improving on, and I think with new technologies, it is possible to integrate everything.
Thank you, Shirish, for
So
those
I will
comments.
cover
And,
maybe later once time gets, Dr. Vilas, on the traceability, because that is one very important topic actually. If we find a time, I think we should try and cover on that.
Definitely, I'll come back to that, and maybe let's take up the traceability itself, because safety and quality definitely are key, and they have to be assured to consumers.
Yes.
And
yes.
traceability becomes an extremely important thing. And on this topic, I would like both the food manufacturing side, Ganesh, as well as Shirish, to comment. And we have left with about I would say about 10 to 12 minutes. So try to be brief so that we will leave some more time for general questions.
Yeah. So nutshell, I think everybody might be aware, all the listener, viewers and participants, listeners. So we will be aware about what is the traceability. Basically, I should be able to trace the way like a movement of food products and its ingredients throughout all the steps of the supply chain, both backward, forward. And today, what is the buzzword around? It is all around the actually how this traceability is done actually, what technologies are used actually. And today, if you see, the biggest buzzword around is a blockchain. And I think most of you may be aware, may not be aware. Currently, there is a lot of talk about Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies and all that. So all that is based on this platform of blockchain. Why? Because this blockchain platform is it makes it very difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. So that is what actually I think is very important, because traceability is also equally important from the consumer point of view, from the food producer point of view, as well as the legal authorities or regulatory bodies point of view. If there are any problem comes with the food, how I should trace it. Suppose there is some issues with the food and some people are falling sick, how I can really trace those products at all the nodes of supply chain and get it back. This is possible to track through the blockchain solutions. And this is very important. And how we can do that? We can collaborate. Basically, any producer organization with this blockchain technology can collaborate with the suppliers, then implement tracking system through the softwares. We already spoke about many RFID and other stuff actually. Then there is integrating traceability with existing technologies, create alert system through the mobiles, or any kind of alert system through the emails, or whatever platforms we wanted to use, is mobiles is much easier, then communicate with our consumers through the loyalty programs and other stuff. So there is like a whole sorts of this is possible. Benefits will be like increasing quality and reliability. It will also improve my recall process very accurately, and I can prevent many of my consumers eating it and getting sick actually. Then the inventory tracking is very crucial. We can, then it is a full transparent visibility is there for entire all the stakeholders, and this also will improve the food safety very enormously. And in current pandemic, I think everybody wanted to know mal kahan pe bana hai, how it is like coming, and how what I am eating. So very important how it is handled and all that. In fact, future generation will look like, I really wanted to know exactly like kind of video how things are like looking at actually. Maybe it may come another decade or so. Thanks.
Thanks, Harish. Ganesh, quick comments from your side.
Yeah,
on
I'll
the
just give a
traceability.
quick comment. So it's very important to have this blockchain at one place, and then there is an there is an automation. So all these things can be combined. This blockchain and automation can be combined, where all of this combination brings a lot of trust to the whole system. Either it is customer, either it is consumer, either it is the manufacturer or a third party manufacturer. Everywhere the trust will be built just because of bringing this blockchain, traceability, and automation, where from an automation you can do an automatic sampling, automatic testing can be done. There could be cameras where it can be seen. Camera previously it was very costly. Today it is very cheaper. A simple Android phone is having the camera now. The previous phones with camera were quite costly. So now every time it is scaling up, the whole technology is scaling up, and it's bringing the cost table down. So I think that's where it is helping our traceability with blockchain and automation. I think that's all from my side.
Thank you, Ganesh. There is another one general topic that I want to bring, where I want a quick comments from the three of you. As we talk of automation technology, integrating all the new technologies, artificial intelligence into this whole thing, apparently there is another aspect that is changing, which is earlier we used to have commodity food and maybe some proprietary food, but today we have dietary supplements, nutraceuticals, functional foods, and now because of nutrigenomics, we are having all kinds of new generation of, and they require a whole new technology and extraction processes and everything. That is one aspect. The second one is all this we are doing it for consumers, right? So what are the needs of the consumers? Now, everybody wants convenience. So ready to eat foods, ready to bake, ready to fry are going to be increasing. Now, and nobody wants preservatives in the food. So they want all green labels. Now, the food preservation technologies, the most popular ones, and three of them were developed by the US military. One is a retort technology. The second one is, of course, the radiation technology, by which you can sterilize the foods and preserve it. And then the MATS technology, microwave assisted thermal sterilization process, which is just making inroads. And the fourth one is electron beam technology. Now, retort technology is lower on the investment, and many industries can afford to put up the plants, and they're doing it. Where you can have a long-term shelf life without preservative. Second one is radiation. Unfortunate part of it is, everybody cannot do it. It requires a nuclear material, and it has to be restricted, and only government has to set it up. So there is a limitation. Electron beam technology is the most, according to me, the most simple and the next generation technology. And I have actually, seen the plant. There is one in Texas A&M built. You pack the foods in whatever container you want, plastic, tin, whatever it is, put it in the shippers, put them onto the truck, and drive the truck through the electron beam tunnel. It is just a 2 or 3 minute drive into the tunnel. When the truck comes out, entire food material in the containers is sterilized. It's as simple as that. However, it's a huge investment. Originally, I think previously there was a plan that government would invest on electron beam plants and put them up in the food technology parks, where all the local farmers will bring in their produce in the trucks and pass it through this. And I think that's a very simple solution. So when we talk of modernization and all this, there is a role in terms of what government and how much investment they want to make. It cannot be always left to industries. I think this kind of large facilities can be used by small scale, medium, and everybody. And it is, look at the simplicity of this technology. So, I think through this panel, we should also communicate these things. So if you can all comment upon this specifically, I think that would be interesting to see.
So I will, since we're talking about big, broad topic, and I think Shirish also mentioned about blockchain, and I personally feel that there is also a sizable requirement on the fundamental level. And how do we cop up to that requirement from Schneider Electric? Is we all know that Schneider is a global leader when it comes to transformation, digital transformation, and whether it is in energy management or in automation. We are also recently ranked as the most sustainable organization even globally. So it's not that we look at it from only the high level of concept in terms of modernization the industry, but we also look at how do we work on the integrated factory management, how do we work on the overall energy optimization, not only from the demand side but also on the supply side of energy, because these are very core concepts. We all know associated not only energy but even the data that needs to be drawn from that energy pointers. Energy management is also, the data is the new oil, we always say this. And when it comes to the manufacturing part of this business, what matters is that how do we, traceability is a topic that has been often spoken about, and we are doing projects with understanding how the track and trace can work, how the overall traceability can work. As Shirish very precisely mentioned that, in the future generations to come, people will have to see how the product is being manufactured before even they buy this. And I think that's where we come into the picture, that how do we understand how the serialization of these products happen, how the overall track and trace happen from the manufacturing to the overall distribution, from the supply chain till the consumers. So I think this will all fall under a larger basket of digital transformation. It will also fall under the digital modernization of the manufacturing facility. And we always talk about the concepts of AIs and ML and so on, but I feel that more than automating the manufacturing facilities, all that we will be trying is trying to do automating the decision making in the manufacturing facilities. It is about bringing in the data so that we can help the manufacturing processes. The human intervention, lesser human intervention, human is the only part which is being not controlled at the moment, unless we use the veto power in the manufacturing facilities as such. Otherwise the machines are more or less data oriented. So that's where Schneider as an organization come in play. And we wanted to diversify it. We don't want it to restrict it to only food or only beverages as a marketing industry, but we also go from foods and bev to the mainstream life sciences industry. We also cater to the overall home and personal care industry, wherein not only working with the strategic customers or certain set of global customers.
Kaustubh, if you can be brief, I would, if you can be brief, because we're running out of time. So
the closing comment on this is not only from these set of customers, but also on the overall broader market of CPG, that is what we are trying to cater to in the overall modernization picture.
Over to you, Ganesh.
Yeah, I think so. What you said was more on the either spectral or beam methods. So previously, all of the things, either it is analysis or either it is, you do these radiation technologies and all. So I think the analysis was more gravimetric. So spectral methods are more, I think, more quicker. You get a lot of turnaround, you get direct data available. And I like what Kaustubh said, was that the faster decision making can be done through the equipment, because data can be collected at one place and then the distribution can happen, or the decision making by that automated system can happen. I think that's going to be the next level, where the decision making would happen through this some of the data and the spectral methods in this case. Thanks.
Shirish ji.
No, I think most of the points are covered. I just wanted to share a couple of points on the because this is currently still COVID is going on. What we tried, actually, there is a UV kind of lamps, no? So we have found that with HEPA filtration system, because many of the food industries also need a air circulate. Basically, it is a controlled air, or it is a air conditioning, or whatever. At least you need a AHU system, air handling systems. And then what we found is with UV GI lamps, actually with HEPA filtration, I think there is a very high chance of reducing the virological load into the overall shop floor and other places. This needs to be like a more tried, but initial indication, yes, there is I think a lot of possibility to do that. And then we are talking about the like a food safety and all that. I think metal detectors, then foreign metal detection systems, and vision based sorters and other stuff. I think X-ray machines and other stuff people are already using. I think that further can be put onto the digital analytical loop. Actually, basically analytics can be run. And again, to break the jargon, actually, analytics is possible even for small areas. And I think I have seen some of the young engineers and some startup guys, they are developing the analytical loops around the smaller areas also. I think in case some of the small industry players wanted to try something around in those areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Shirish. One question which I from my side I would like to raise. This thing is one of the important aspect is, we are talking of sustainability. So sustainability, one of the major would be reducing the carbon footprint and water footprint. So in all this digitization and all, manufacturing companies and all, are they trying to track down the changes in carbon footprint and water footprint of their processes as they modernize and automate?
Yeah, maybe I'll give you example of my company, actually, Dr. Vilas. So we are already working on that. See, it is again those 4 R's actually. So what we are concentrating now in the specific power and fuel consumptions actually, because it per ton how much I am consuming, and that is a matrix, and how I can year on year go on reducing 10, 20, 30% by debottlenecking some of the areas. Because it also has a benefit, because if I save it, my conversion cost is reducing. So it is a win-win situation. So it is about the conversion cost, so it saves my power as well as fuel. Another area is about the big areas about the like going for the greener or renewable energy sourcing actually. Like we are putting the lot of wind and solar. Today solar is like easily available, and our continent is really blessed with the solar power. So it will remain, because we are in this continent where there is a lot of sunlight is there. And I think solar, yes, because of certain import restrictions and all that, some panel cost has gone up temporarily, but my assessment, I think in couple of years time again it will come down. So solar could be like a big areas, and then parallelly this lithium batteries and all that is getting developed. So I think it is just waiting for the next miraculous things to happen actually in that segment. And then all the thermal energy like boilers and all that, it is a biomass. India has a huge like agriculture things, and a lot of waste materials and all that. People parali vagare, there is a lot of problems are coming. No, farmers are just burning that, and it is creating another environmental problem. But if we can create some technologies which can create a value for them, they will stop burning it. It will stop the creating these like issues with respect to air pollution, as well as they get money actually. So I'm just giving some examples. I think there is a lot of stuff. Same thing is happening in water also. We are taking year on year like a reduction of the water specific water consumptions by almost like last 3 years we have reduced by almost 30% specific water consumptions in our factories. So I'm sure, I think many companies are doing it. They are upfront like putting their targets, like this is what we would like to do it, and I think people are very cognizant about it.
Ganesh, your comments on that?
I think sustainability is.
Ganesh?
Am I audible? I think I'm audible. Yeah. So sustainability, like what Shirish mentioned, it is very important to have that. People are developing a technology. So some of the manufacturing, the utilities equipment. So those utility equipment is changing and becoming more efficient, so that you can reduce your water footprint continuously. You can also further reduce your carbon footprint by moving from current petrol, diesel, all of those things to something which is more of solar, or something which is more greener in this case. So I think that's every industry is working around it, and there are targets for all the industries to more sustainable in terms of their current utilities, also in terms of the products or the raw materials they buy, which is sustainable, sustainable cocoa, sustainable coffee, sustainable palm. There are a lot of sustainability, I think, drive being taken by the overall industry. Thanks.
I would like to take some questions which have come from the audience. There's one which says, how important is inventory management and complete visibility? Comments from either Shirish or Ganesh on this aspect.
No, I think Kaustubh, you have certain solutions on inventory management. I have a lot of thoughts around it, but if you have anything in those
Yeah, maybe
areas,
Kaustubh can speak if they already have some
Yes,
ready-made
yeah.
solutions.
So, I'll just comment on the previous topic of water footprint and carbon footprint, and I think alternate power is a solution that we are also supporting a lot when it comes to solar or associated offers from Schneider Electric. And when it comes to the inventory management, I think it roams around multiple topics, and I'm sure everyone would have a lot to talk about it. But all we can say is, when it comes to the warehouse management, it includes the inventory part of the business, whether it is from the inbound or the outbound. We have multiple layers of solutions which are not only automation poised, but they also have high level of sensors and data monitoring and data logging. So we do cater to such a solution, which I think which is very crucial for not a large scale industry, but also for smaller scale industries.
See, I think on the inventory management side, I would just say one thing. So, in terms of,
I'm sorry for interruption, Mr. Kulkarni, but I request if you could kindly wrap up the session since we have a time constraint.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Vilas.
We do have some questions, but I think many of the points have already been covered, and some of them are very general questions in terms of what is the impact of automation on the food industry and all. I believe, looking at these questions, most of these points have been covered. In case if audience have any more questions, they can send it to the organizers and then they can direct it to one of the panelists, and we will be able to send you the necessary details and answers to those. So I would like to thank all the panelists for the interesting discussion. And again, thanks to Sinex for giving us this honor. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much to all the panel members for joining in and giving us your wonderful insights. And also thank you to Dr. Shirati for wonderfully moderating this panel session. There was a bit of time constraint, so that is the reason we had to cut short on the questionnaire, but we will send it across to you and you can answer it individually. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.